Okay, so we've divided Ireland up in a new arrangement using this Vesica Pisces to describe the three alchemical cauldrons of the body, which we're going to be learning more and more about as we go on, which are very, very important to know about energetically for the practice of the sacred secretion. We've already established that the upper cauldron is really talking about the head, the brain, the eyes, the nose, the sensory orifices, the inputs, food, chi resources, all of that, upper cauldron. Joining to the middle cauldron, to the belly button, which is all about those organs in the upper region that we learned about last class, places where inputs of chi resources go in and they get manufactured into energetic resources that get sent all around the body, all of the cells, to spread the consciousness, the spirit of the Isa from the chi, the seed, turning into the spirit, and that flows our consciousness around our body while feeding it with nutrients. And then from the middle cauldron to the lower cauldron, that is really the part of where the essence lives, which can be interpreted as the reproductive sexual life force energy that is able to produce, create life from, produce a child, all of that stuff. But in the sacred secretion practice, instead of sending that energy out of the body to create a life externally and duplicate yourself, you send it back into the body and up the spine, through the brain to the place of the chi, the psychic energy, and you merge it with that chi in that area, the sexual energy to the psychic energy, and then you bring it back into the heart, into that central heart, hearth, Ishnag place for refinement, and then that is able to be going through the heart and being restructured by the heart, which is a vortex. And we know that that liquid, that blood, is really just water, and that heart is vortexing that water, which means it's improving its sacred geometrical crystal lattice arrangement, which means that the signals can pass more efficiently through that crystalline structure, and we're improving ourselves every time we do this practice of the sacred secretion. It's about refining fluids through this recycling process while we're adding in new ingredients. We're refining them through our body. We're doing this in a baptism. We're cleansing ourselves with electromagnetic influences, electromagnetic forces, while we're consciously moving our energy in the opposite direction to this movement of the sun. We're actually going against that, which I find quite interesting. There's a lot to be said for, you know, what they say is the influence of the cosmos and the influence of the archetypes, and it just keeps us sort of locked into that wheel of time. But this practice is more about going against those fates so we can change the course of our life and choose our destiny and all of that stuff. So just a reminder about the Vesica Pisces, as we can see here, and we've got the yellow one here, the blue one down here, and the unification of the two of them is creating a third energy between. So it's the positive force, the negative force, the magnetic, the feminine, attractive, to the positive, masculine, forceful energy moving away from itself, versus energy being pulled towards, that centripetal, centrifugal. And these two forces coming together to create this new life force, the positive and negative duality meeting as one, to create essentially like a scalar field. And that's happening in, you know, but it's not just happening in that middle cauldron. The whole thing represents it, right? So what we want to know is that in the upper cauldron region, this is not an exact, it's just an interpretation, but the upper cauldron region of Ireland, it's really about that province of Ulster. And, you know, we've got all of the counties in there. Importantly, that we've already discussed, is really the location of the zodiac, which you can refer to the Andis Cowlands map in your Google Drive for all of that imagery, which we will revisit once we do the Neijing too as well. So up in the forehead, we've got the third eye, the eagle, the scorpion, and the phoenix. The third eye, the two optical eyes informing the pineal gland that runs on sunlight to create melatonin to regulate the sleep-wake cycle. The crystalline radio station in the brain, that's all about Scorpio. And then in the mouth, the nose, the Moses with the gnosis, The scales of justice is the Libra. So that's happening in Ulster province region, along with Loch Ness, the Lake of the Horsemen, which is the ventricular system of the brain that produces the cerebral spinal fluid that we're going to be optimizing and refining through our bodies to create the sacred secretion. So that's the important parts of the upper cauldron as the brain of Ireland in the province of Ulster. And then we can see the 4 rivers that link into Loch Ness, Lower Barn, Upper Barn, Blackwater, and I can never remember what this one is. And we can notice that this Blackwater sort of indirectly connects into Loch Earn, Lower and Upper, and Loch Derg is in there as well. And this is all very important for the sacred secretion to know about all of this, because this is the place of the mouth, the place of the saliva, the parotid gland that produces the saliva that wets the mouth. And you can see that it's essentially in a way connected to the cerebral spinal fluid. I'm still investigating this in terms of physiology of how the cerebral spinal fluid is influencing the quality of the saliva produced in the parotid gland. But we can see here in Ireland there's a bit of a clue, and I have felt it in my own practice. As the saliva fills up my mouth, I have felt a little squirting coming from the parotid gland, which is really located right in front of the brainstem. So the brainstem connects right into the ventricular system of the brain, and then directly in front is the parotid gland, which is causing the saliva production in the mouth that we then swallow down, and from the upper cauldron, refined golden elixir, they call it in Chinese medicine or Daoism and Alchemy. You swallow the golden elixir and it goes down, 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 a hidden secret passage behind the heart, through the heart, and then it's flowing down the body into the lower region, and then you're bringing it back up again and you're recycling it and refining it. So that's, you know, the incorporation of the upper cauldron into the sacred secretion, what we're going to be focusing on. Knowing the neuroanatomy, as I've said, is in the second book, Raising Christos, because it's just such a lot of detail to get through. It's got a whole book for it. And then coming down into the middle cauldron, which we've already discussed last class, we're transitioning from the upper cauldron to the middle cauldron through this neck, the trachea, the larynx, the esophagus, all the fluids, the foods, the swallowing. It's going down into this upper part of the middle cauldron, and then into the lower part of the middle cauldron, into the stomach, which we can see represented there as Loch Ree, Jesus of Nazareth, born in a manger at Bethlehem. It's all there. And then this is right opposite, the stomach is right opposite on that solar plexus, the kidneys, which is in between the kidneys on the spine. We have a point there called Mingmen, and it means gate of destiny, and or gate of life. And this is really in this kind of Dublin region of Ireland. And this is really, you can see here, you know, representing the borderland between the middle cauldron and the lower cauldron. So that's the kidneys and the stomach sharing the solar plexus, and then of course the digestive organs in between. And then we're moving down to the lower cauldron, which is the place of the essence, the chi, the spirit, and the essence. And this is the sexual reproductive life force energy that is contained in the, you know, the ovaries, the testicles, but it's really the jing, the life force energy is contained in the kidneys, and then it's fed into those organs. So the kidneys influence the quality of the jing, of the essence. So you can see how what is in the middle cauldron is influencing the lower cauldron. What is in the upper cauldron is influencing the middle cauldron. And then what is in the lower cauldron will be influencing the upper cauldron when we do the circulations of the microcosmic orbit practice. So when we see it all, you know, the body represented as this Vesica Pisces, we can know that, you know, everything is working together as systems. Nothing is separate on its own over there. The head is not just by itself up there, although England did cut off the head of Ireland. We won't talk about that. Hopefully we get enough people doing this kind of work, we can change reality in a positive way.